Daily Ticket with you here on a Thursday. Sean Brace riding solo for now. Just to let you know, starting on Monday, we'll be giving away a pair of tickets to Fanatics Fest NYC. That's Michael Rubin. I swear, like they had no idea that there's another Fanatics Fest that happens in the city of Philadelphia, but whatever. We're giving away a pair of tickets every day next week on our socials. Fanatics Fest NYC, Michael Rubin, all that and more. Check out the guest list. If you want to go, all you got to do is give us a follow, and we'll show you how you can win those tickets starting next week on Monday at Fox PHL Gambler on socials. All right, joining me right now in the Gambler stream. You know him, you love him. Haven't talked to this guy in a little bit. Sean Barnard covers all things Sixers and the NBA and USA basketball for us here on the Gambler. Good afternoon, Sean. How we doing today?
Yeah, can't complain too much. A little bit quiet in the basketball world, I would say. Olympics going on, which is cool. Getting a chance to check out a lot of these guys. But other than that, NBA hitting a little bit of a lull, which tends to be rare these days when the era of trade rumors and everything else, disgruntled stars. So I think things will be picking up again pretty soon. But for now, a little bit pause in the NBA world.
A little bit of a pause in the NBA world. Not so much a bad thing because it'll be starting very soon. And of course, we got everything that's happening once we wrapped up the Summer League. And just to let everybody know, to win the NBA championship, we did have some slight movement because the Sixers were second on that list for quite some time. But OKC Thunder 7-1, only behind the Boston Celtics at plus 295. Sixers are plus 850 on DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll have plenty of time to talk some Sixers. Of course, Paul George catching a lot of attention. Got to do his podcast, Sean Barnard. Everybody's got to do his podcast. Tyrese Maxey made his appearance. I would assume Joel Embiid will be on his podcast before the season starts.
Yeah, I would assume that's the case as well. For what it's worth, I do think Paul George does a pretty good job at the podcast. There are some guys who certainly I wouldn't say are experts on the mics. I think Paul is pretty good at it, the way that he does keep a rhythm flow and kind of keep things going. And it has some interesting guests in general. So the Tyrese episode was pretty cool. Always cool to see a window into the personality. And we kind of have a good feeling for who Tyrese at this point. At any time he gets to kind of display the kid that he is awesome. So I think Paul does do a nice job. And, maybe the Sixers were just one podcaster away. Maybe that's what hurt him with the Pat Bev trade last year.
We also do have some Tyrese Maxey news that we will hit on a little bit later because you're going to be attending the foundation, Tyrese Maxey's Foundation Friends and Family Weekend coming up this weekend. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I know that there's some stuff that's embargoed, all that. We don't want to cross those lines, but I think we could let the people know that you will be in attendance and talk a little bit more tomorrow and possibly getting some good information from Tyrese on a one-on-one level, but look forward to that. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room with Team USA. Now, I gotta be honest with you and be straight up because it doesn't change for me specifically from the standpoint of the player not playing just because it's my guy Joel Embiid, who we love. Sean Barnard, the goal, the object of going across season playing in Paris in the Olympics is to win gold. That's it. You go out there and you play your best. Best roster, best players, as far as a coaching perspective is concerned, with Steve Kerr, been there, done that. So when Jason Tatum didn't play and they covered the number and they wiped out the opponent that opened up the Serbia, thank you, and they wiped them out and they covered the number, I didn't have an issue with it. At the end of the day, I thought Steve Kerr, he knows this team better than us. Okay, Jason Tatum didn't play. Should he have found a way to play him in garbage minutes? I don't know if that would have been good enough. I don't know if that's the approach. Steve Kerr went over there and handled the damn business. They won game one, covered the number. Game two, Joel Embiid doesn't play. They don't cover the number against Sudan. Really entertaining basketball game. So much from the standpoint of that country. You've probably heard it a million one times. There's no indoor basketball arena, and those guys are out there competing against LeBron James. They had one NBA player that's currently on an active team, if I'm not mistaken, only two other players. They do have that freshman from Duke who's sensational this year. But my standpoint on this can't change, Sean. I got to be consistent. Steve Kerr got it right, even though they didn't cover the number. I would not sit Joel Embiid. I think he's the best player in that damn team, except for LeBron James and maybe Kevin Durant. But He saw it differently, but where do you stand? I'm curious to know your thoughts on it. Not to say that you would be wrong if you disagree with me, but what's your take on Jason? What were you saying after Jason Tatum didn't play in game one? What are you saying after Joel Embiid didn't play in game two?
Yeah, and shout out to Luol Deng for funding everything for South Sudan as well, because it would not be possible without that. And really cool story there. A lot of goodness to go down with. But as far as the USA conversation, I mean, after the Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton sitting in game one, I understand the matchup standpoint for sure. I still think Joel Embiid is the only true center on this roster. Even Anthony Davis is a guy who prefers to play the four and has been pretty open about that publicly. So I think Embiid's the only guy, and it clearly made sense for him to get his opportunity against Nikola Jokic. I also think we should be able to look at this objectively and say that Joel Embiid has not played his best basketball at the Olympic level, and it's certainly been an adjustment. I think specifically being a little bit less of a ball stopper and a guy that, isn't like going to get his isolation attempts and create his own shot, because that's not how Steve Kerr likes to play basketball in general. And it's certainly not going to be passable when you're sharing the floor with all these guys. I wouldn't consider it a punishment that he was benched in game two. I do think it was more of a matchup standpoint. And after that was really the spin that everyone gave on the Jason Tatum side of things, that it was a matchup specific thing for that game. I kind of had a feeling it wouldn't shock me if there would be a game that Joel Embiid was that guy. And ultimately, it was unfortunate that was game two. Selfishly, I definitely want to see him play. And I think like my biggest thing that I'm looking forward to taking away from this just Olympics experience for Joel is for him to improve, for not being such a ball dominant player, for him to find ways to impact game. And to his credit, I think he's been better at that than people have acknowledged. There's been some really nice two-man game with Steph Curry, which has been really cool. His screen assist and type of things that, go underlooked are things that Joel doesn't tend to prioritize in his game. So it's a bummer not to see him play, but I get it from Team USA's standpoint to an extent. And Steve Kerr, steered us right 2 straight games so far. So all goals are still in sight.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And at the same time, they didn't cover, right? And that was a big time number. I think it was 28, 29, something like that. So they didn't cover, and Sudan hit a couple big shots in the fourth quarter to make it like under 20 points. And I think the final score was like 18-17 final, as far as the winning was concerned from TUSA final score. But yeah, like giving Joel Embiid a breather, like, in my opinion, Joel Embiid brings something different than anybody on that roster as a true center, as a true big man, but the rules are so different. And now he said the matchup. Are you buying what Steve Kerr said about that from the matchup standpoint? Because he said Sudan was faster. Oh, by the way, Puerto Rico plays pretty fast as well.
Yeah, to some extent I buy it. I think like he's gonna rotate. I think it was Joel's turn for that to be the case. And there will be matchups, like if we look ahead to a France matchup, you better believe Joel Embiid's going to be playing that game against Victor Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert, that he's going to be very necessary to matchups like that. So like I think he's very important to this Team USA team, even though he may look expendable not playing a game like that. South Sudan, that is more of their style, that it's a lot of quick paced athleticism, and that's kind of a lot of switchable wing type archetype of players. So I think some of it's excuse making and some of it's true. The bottom line is I think he's going to rotate a couple guys that don't sit. It's tough when you have 12 guys as talented that are the 12 on the floor. And I think a lot of times people get it overshadowed that, yes, Team USA has the most talent, but you have to have the best basketball team. And that's why we're seeing guys like Derek White and Drew Holiday really shining. Devin Booker, I think, deserves a lot of credit for kind of embracing this glue guy type role as well. You can't just roll out 5 stars. It doesn't quite click the same way. And I think they're still figuring that out. And I think Joel's still figuring that out too.
Yeah, clearly, I'm not going to say, and let me put the hand up in the air. I watched Sudan's game, pretty much 75-80% of that game. The first game against Serbia missed. No, actually, I watched the game in Serbia. I watched the whole first half, which was entertaining. Second half, they pulled away. But I was out and about. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. I actually stopped at a wonderful bar in Stone Harbor and caught that while my wife and daughter were doing some shopping. So I appreciate the fact that I was able to slide in there and grab myself a nice orange crush and enjoy the first half. So I can't lie and say I was so dialed in. Clearly, in my eyes, it does look like Joel Embiid is trying to figure it out a little bit, right? It's not the smoothest operator. I did watch him in some of those those games leading up to the tournament as well. I don't know, like the conditioning, I think from the grand scheme of things, maybe I'm changing my point where I was like, oh, I don't know if I want him to play, but him getting active this part of the summer, I think that might be something good if he continues to take that into September and say, you know what, no rest for the wicked. Let's go. Maybe a week off after the Olympics, but let's keep this conditioning up. I did see Dwight Howard on a podcast saying that he thought it would be extremely beneficial for Joel Embiid to lose 20 pounds. I'm not going to go that far. I don't know his body like he does, but he has talked about his knees. And if you can lighten the load, that's going to only be good for you in the long run throughout the course of a season. Just one man's take on that one. So there's a lot of positives in my mind from Joel Embiid. Of course, he's going to be frustrated. He thinks he's the best player on that team, so he wants to play. So the pictures of him possibly sitting on the bench with his hands in his pockets, who cares? You think Tatum was happy about sitting? For crying out loud, the guy just won an NBA championship a month ago, and he's sitting, not playing a minute on USA Basketball, knowing what's going to be said about him on the timeline. So
while his teammates played.
Like what? True, while his teammates played. Not Jaylen Brown either, the other two. But look, I think there's going to be some good things from this no matter what. And where do you stand as far as competition is concerned? Now, they're going up against Puerto Rico. They're 33-point favorites in this game coming up here on Saturday at 11:15 in the morning. Is there any team out there that's caught your attention that maybe it's going to be a little bit difficult for Team USA?
Yeah, I mean, France, I'm really intrigued by. Victor Wembanyama, he looks even a little bit stronger in my eyes. Like, he looks like he's filled out a little bit, which is it should be a scary sight to every basketball player in the world for that. Rudy Gobert, Nico Batum, they got a decent amount of talent over there, guys. Evan Fournier on that team as well. Germany is also a team that really kind of scares me a little bit because they're pretty complete, and they're also a bunch of guys that aren't going to be afraid. They got the Wagner brothers. Daniel Tice knocks down a couple shots for them. Dennis Schroeder isn't afraid of the moment. Spain also pretty solid. So, and Canada, of course, we're going to see that matchup. I still don't think this Team USA team has like quite found its way to click. In general, kind of my outlook on all this is if they play their best ball, there's no team in the world that can touch them. But I don't think we've quite seen that yet. So they're still kind of figuring things out. And that is exactly tied to Steve Kerr tinkering with the lineups in the way that he has. I think probably France and Germany would be the two teams that I've circled as kind of legitimate threats right now. But I understand the push for both Canada and Spain as well.
All right. Well, we still have some ways to go until we get into some of that knockout round basketball. But this game against Puerto Rico is going to be fun on Saturday. Once again, 33-point favorites, 188.5. Who's been the best player in this team? Like, am I out of my mind to sit here and say LeBron James is the best player on Team USA?
Yeah, I think you're probably right, and it's crazy that we're saying that. I mean, Kevin Durant's been unbelievable as well, and especially the way he changed that first game, just coming in and getting red hot. I do think Devin Booker has really shined in my mind, which that wasn't a guy that I had a ton of expectation for going in, but I honestly do think the answer is probably LeBron James, and it is insane that guy still has his fastball at 39 years old. The Jordan shirt on.
I love MJ, but damn, dude. He wasn't doing this at that age. It's crazy. It is crazy to watch LeBron James play. Again, I'm not going to sit here and make too much of a case against the competition, but at the end of the day, dude was doing it for the Lakers. What's that conversation mean to you? Because there's a lot of people that are taking the games that they're playing with the Olympics, and you got LeBron and Anthony Davis shining, yet the Lakers can't be the best. Like, does that conversation move the needle at all for you? Because to me and Kevin Durant, what he did with Booker, you're bringing up, like, it's apples and oranges in my eyes. We talk about teams. We know specifically more than most when Joel Embiid comes off the floor. Good luck, right? Yeah. Well, the same thing happens for the Lakers. LeBron's got to get a little bit of a breather. He can't play, although he does basically play out every minute. But the team comes into play in team basketball. Where do you stand on that conversation?
Yeah, I think it's if you're making the direct like Olympic like comparison here, I think it's pretty unfair to think about like when you look at the bench units that these guys are playing with, it's pretty easy to elevate like Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, Drew Holiday, Drew starting a lot, but whoever's coming off the bench is like unbelievable level of talent versus when you're talking about the NBA and it's, Shake Milton coming off the bench or whoever else is that guy. A little bit of a tough ricochet shot at Shake, who I do like, yeah. But you get the point that it's like these are not quite the same standards. So it's another story when you're trying to raise those guys up. I mean, LeBron still looks terrific. Anthony Davis coming off a phenomenal year. So I understand the optimism for them having kind of the bones of a contender there, but I still think there's a lot to just try and overcome on that team there. I'm not buying any sort of Lakers stock. And honestly, that was kind of my push for LeBron being a dark horse Sixers candidate this summer. If you gave it any sort of thought, is I don't really know what direction they can go. That I've heard like the D'Angelo Russell whispers that them trying to find a way to move on from him and find a way to use him as kind of a trade chip type piece. And Austin Reeves, we've heard in trade rumors forever. Rui Hachimura that they seem to be looking to ship off. But the bottom line is like, these aren't guys that you're going to find a way to bring some massive return. And it does feel like the Lakers tend to always find a way. But I do feel like this is going to be another story where the CBA, which has been one of these stories of the summer to me, is going to be really restrictive to everyone. That this isn't just the ownership paying more money. This is physically impossible to make some of these moves happen. And I think the Lakers might be finding that out firsthand.
It's crazy, Sean. I was talking about this yesterday or 2 days ago because I saw that there was a little bit of a video on my timeline about the CBA and what it's going to be in 2030 and what those players in the NBA will be making max deals for the year.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be above $100 million per season for some of these players. And that is just unbelievable. Shout out the NBA and getting their money. Albeit it's going to come at some expense to the fan because a lot of it's going to be streaming, especially in years to come. But I'm fine with that. Let's go. But I think we're going to end up losing, of course, Charles Barkley, Shaq, and all those guys, which is the best show after all of that to get you through a regular season. Who knows what will come about? But still, man, a lot of money to be made in that league. That's for damn sure. Let me ask you, as far as the over to the ladies, since we're talking USA basketball here. Dawn Staley, who we love, said, well, if we could have it do it all over again, we might look at Caitlin Clark and bring her over there. Dude, they're not going to lose a game. They're going to win every game by 25. It was just such a bad decision. They should have put her on the team. I'm not saying that statement frustrates me, but like clearly, Dawn, like you could see the writing on the wall, right?
Yeah.
And shame on them as a group, whoever decided to say, you know what, like we're not going to without, okay, they're still going to play a couple weeks. Like you knew darn well. At the end of the day, I do want to be upfront and say, I bet you Caitlin Clark is extremely happy for getting a couple weeks off because that girl has been playing ball forever. But man, Dawn Staley bringing that back up again. What was your take on that?
Yeah, I've been pretty frustrated with kind of the Caitlin Clark management since the transition to the WNBA, to be perfectly honest. And honestly, like even using this as an example to shoot you straight, like I have not watched a women's USA game so far in the Olympics. I'm not saying I absolutely would if Caitlin Clark was there, but do I think there's a higher chance? For sure. Like if I get a storyline, if they're playing at this time and that's the time I got available, I'm way more likely to put it on if Caitlin Clark's on the floor. And I think that's a pretty common take amongst just basketball fans in general. Now, the Team USA team is absolutely very good.
Ooh.
Kelsey Plum, Diana Taurasi, everyone that is representing over there. You're right. They're going to win with or without her. But I do think that like this seemingly like determination to make her pay her dues feels like it just hurts everyone. Like I think it should be embraced that you can understand. It's not saying you have to make her the starter and like playing all these minutes, but give the opportunity, put the eyes on it. And it feels in my eyes that it would help everyone. So I don't get it. I think everyone could have seen this coming. And even when you look at like the point in when the selections were made, Caitlin Clark's stats a lot better than a lot of the girls on the team here. And I get stats aren't everything. They want the experience, all that type of thing. But to me, this could have been seen a mile away, could have been avoided, and probably should have been avoided, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. By the way, the women are in action right now as we speak, taking on Belgium, 22-point favorites heading into that game. I think they only played one game, if I'm not mistaken. So, and they lumped China, I want to say it was. Have you watched any of the 3-on-3 though?
Saw Jimmer Fredette in it. Caught a couple minutes. I do hate how much it's just throwing up threes. Like that was
Wild.
my real disappointment there because 3-on-3 basketball in general is awesome. Like 3-on-3 tournaments growing up, stuff like that. Like one of my favorite kind of hoops. So kind of disappointed that it has, I guess, embraced analytics in the same way that we see with today's game. So I thought I was gonna love it, ended up not loving it that much.
Yeah, it's different. And then the fast paced check, like you make the basket, get it out, and you can shoot. Like, whoa, what happened? Check right, like right? Aren't you supposed to get the ball, check, give it back? Now we start. Like, what happened to that? That doesn't exist. I know I've watched it before in previous years or previous Olympics, but it was definitely a refresher. Let's just say that. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Well, anyways, the women are struggling. Maybe Caitlin Clark should have been on that team. Just saying, maybe she could have helped versus what they are now. I know Cameron Brink was supposed to be on it and they lost her, but still, it's been a disaster on all things for men and women 3-on-3. So something to keep our eyes on there. All right. Well, look, this has been a fun one. Again, the men coming up here, they're back in action, and Puerto Rico tomorrow. Not too much to worry about there, but still, it is fun to see LeBron James just competing at the level he is and the caring that he's putting behind it. And at the end of the day, man, I don't think that those guys or girls get enough credit for representing our country, going over there, pausing their life and competing at that level to win the gold, because we see it as easy, right? Oh, it's if they don't win, it's a disaster. But if they do win, oh, they're supposed to. So they're in a no-win situation when it comes to the fans' perspective, and that's understood. But guys like Carmelo, who did it for 4 straight Olympics, like you can go down the list. And we want to
AD.
shine one more to AD. Yeah,
KD, yeah.
Katie,
Yeah.
like we want to shine the light on all these great Olympians, which I'm saying we should, like Simone Biles, fantastic, Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky. Okay, well, what about these guys and girls, man? Like they're great Olympians too, just because they play in a sport that we expect gold every single time. You can miss me on that. They deserve a little bit more credit in my eyes from the from the American citizen. Let's just put it that way. So hopefully people start to see that, because it's been a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun watching LeBron and company compete out there.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for you, sir?
Yeah, totally agree there. When the bar is set that high, that it's really hard to clear it. That one slip up, and all of a sudden we're talking about it like it's a failure. And I also think all these guys deserve a ton of credit for. I think it's been pretty impressive, kind of the lack of like ego that has been shown from a lot of these guys. They are comfortable taking the back seat, playing team basketball, and I think that's very important. That's the way that things deteriorate, is if that guys aren't willing to do that. And I haven't really seen that from anyone with Team USA, and that's been pretty much universally reported there. So hopefully that continues to be the case as they get into crunch time, and hopefully they take home gold, because that is the expectation, right or wrong.
All right, give me 60 seconds on the Phillies. I know you and Luke Arcani are doing a podcast, doing a YouTube show. Are you panicking right now? What's your thoughts on the Phils?
I mean, it has to happen at some point. That baseball is a marathon, not a sprint, but it's ugly baseball right now. I can't lie and say I haven't been at least a little more than frustrated, a little closer to panic. Like Bryce Harper, 1 for 30 is, and 1 for his last 30 at bats is the worst since Rhys Hoskins went 1 for 36 back in 2021. You can't just be giving away outs like that. And if their star players are not going to play like stars, then everyone can forget about not going all in at the deadline, because you're not doing anything anyway. Now, the reality is I'm frustrated by how attached to the hit this team seems to be, that when everyone's hitting, then everyone's hitting, but when no one's hitting, then no one's hitting. But the reality is, like, they're going to work through it. They'll be better than they are, and hopefully they shake out of this slump pretty soon. But ugly baseball right now.
Sean Barnard, make sure you give him a follow. Tyrese Maxey, Friends Foundation this week coming up, man. He's got some cool things going on. You'll be in attendance tomorrow. Anything you can drop on that, or should we just be looking at the timeline tomorrow?
Yeah, I know he's doing, it's sort of a golf type event tomorrow, and then a basketball type event on Saturday. But all for the Tyrese Maxey Foundation, does a lot of good. So I'm sure there'll be more coming out once they get everything set in stone and release it as they see fit with a lot of it. But a lot of good stuff that he's constantly involved in the community, which we hear a lot about guys. I think Tyrese definitely deserves his shine, for he's been doing this from the start since he got drafted, and now that he's got the contract, I think it's only going up another notch, which is cool to see.
And you got out in the course yesterday. I saw you playing with some people.
Yeah, Mike Powers, good old Sheffield shuffler out there. So Jeff, yeah, who can hit it. He carried us yesterday big time. So good time on the course. And Powers played well as also. So it was a fun time.
Wow, interesting. All right, can't wait to hear more about that in the office. All right, great stuff. Sean Barnard, Sean_Barnard. It's where you can find him on socials. As always, be sure to give him a follow. Sean_Barnard1 with the number 1. All right, Sean, great stuff there. We're keeping moving. We'll talk some Olympics on the other side. Larry Henry Jr. is going to join me. We're going to talk some soccer, both men and ladies, coming our way over the next 48 hours. But they are in the knockout round. So how much of an expectation should we have for the men and the women over there at Team USA in Paris? More so from the men's perspective. What is the ceiling? Find out next from Larry Henry Jr. on the other side. More Daily Ticket after this.